I'm so excited for the next Smash Bros. Game. It hasn't been announced yet, but when you sell that many copies, you're going to have a sequel sooner or later. With a new console comes a new game, and with a new game comes new characters, and that's what I'm counting down. Here are my most wanted and least wanted characters for the next Smash Bros. I'm basing this on how cool the characters are, their moveset potential, and personal bias. I'll also give each character a rating on how likely I think they will be added into the next Smash Bros. Regardless of my bias. I might honk some dongles with this list, but that's how we roll. So before we get into the video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos. And with that out of the way, let's begin. Shadow the Hedgehog is low on this list because he has to be in the next Smash Bros. Sega has pushed the character hard, giving Shadow his own year, which ended up being pretty darn cool. Check out this manga I got from seeing the third Sonic movie. Do you remember the last time Nintendo gave a character their own year? That's what I thought. Between his own game and generations, his weapons, and Doom powers, Shadow has a lot of options he could bring to Smash. Shadow is different enough from Sonic that he wouldn't need to be classified as an Echo Fighter. I say that because Sonic really needs an overhaul in Smash Bros, but that's a different issue. More importantly, Shadow is just cool. I feel like Shadow got snubbed in previous Smash games because Sakurai decided to play Sonic 06 for a moveset inspiration. I would hate Sonic 2 if I had to play that game for work. Not helping is that when the last 3 Smash games were made, Sonic was in kind of a rough spot. Yes, I know it's kind of sacrilege these days to hate on Sonic Unleashed, but people back in the day hated that title. I think that's the reason why Sega has not bothered to make a proper remaster or remake of that game, though it would be cool. As I make this video, Sonic is doing really darn well. The Sonic series needs a bit more love in Smash Bros, and Shadow would fit the bill. Plus, a stage like Radical Highway, Kingdom Valley, or Chaos Island would be fun to fight in. Sakurai-san, I beg of you, please give Sonic some more love in Smash 6. Let's be nice to the Sonic series here. It's not like you guys haven't had a bad almost entire decade. I don't want this character in for a petty reason. I hate their design. Alear looks like Gil and Saber drank a whole bottle of champagne, made the beast with 2 backs in a passionate moment to make the new Messiah, but somehow made Toothpaste the anime character. Which is a shame because most Fire Emblem heroes have a degree of swagger around them that Alear doesn't. Reading more into the character shows that they do have moveset potential as they are a dragon in human form. So if they make the jump to playable status, I hope that Alear has more flavor than being a Martha variant. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Marthaness. That was a pretty good movie. I do like Fire Emblem as a vibe, as an aura, as a concept, as an idea. So more Fire Emblem characters in Smash Bros. I can get behind if they are fun to play as and look cool, like Byleth or Corrin. Maybe there is a fun moveset with Alear, but I know for a fact that there are far cooler and more interesting Fire Emblem characters than them. Ultimate added in Echo Fighters. It's an Albany expression for clones. It allowed the roster to expand laterally with characters that didn't require as much work as a new fighter. There were only 7 Echoes in Ultimate, with 2 retroactively named as such. And looking back at Ultimate, Echoes were underused. While Ken was essentially a different character from Ryu, and Dark Pit and Dark Samus had differences that made them better than their originals in some cases, kind of like counterpicking a V-Trigger or V-Skill in Street Fighter V. Meanwhile, Roy and Lucina are objectively better than their alter egos, and Richter and Daisy have minuscule changes from Simon and Peach respectively. There's a lot you could do with Echoes going forward. Funky would be a great fit for Donkey Kong, you could make Ninten an Echo for Ness, Jean would be a hilarious echo of Kazuya, and Black Shadow could be the heavier version of Falcon. That way we could have a version of Ganondorf that actually plays like Ganondorf instead of just a whack-ass Falcon. Seriously, Ganon has been the worst character in Smash Bros. 3 times in a row. Give the King of Evil a bone here. Echoes are a cool idea that should be explored more, and if we get more characters, it's a case of everybody winning. Unless they make Ganondorf low tier for the 4th time in a row. A character I see frequently on the Smash wishlist, and a character that I just don't get the appeal of. Well, I kind of do. The Bandana D has been promoted in the Kirby series to almost the same level as DDD and Meta Knight, so I can kind of see where fans are coming from. At the same time, it's a Waddle Dee with a spear that cosplays as Hulk Hogan. That isn't exactly the most compelling fighter to me. The dude doesn't even have a name! He's just named after his clothes! You couldn't have called him like, I don't know, Ralph or something? Adding in the Bandana D in Smash 6 comes across as arbitrary to me. Like, oh, Kirby the Forgotten Land sold well, so we gotta add another Kirby character in. Why not the Bandana D? Kirby has a lot going on in Smash Bros. Already. Now, an interesting idea I've seen for the Bandana D is to have some of Kirby's goons help him out, like the Waddle Doo or Poppy Bro, similar to Captain Commando or Yuda with their squads. That route could be interesting, but that would also highlight how uninteresting the Bandana D is by himself. If you can think of a fun moveset for the character, I would love to read it, but I think Kirby is perfectly repped in Smash Bros. As is. I like to rib on the Xenoblade games out of love for the franchise, and I'm glad the series has found a fanbase after only barely making it stateside, and it goes without saying I want more Xenoblade characters in Smash Bros. Mio is a good choice. She has a unique weapon and a playstyle that would help her stand out from her other Xenoblade heroes. I found her more interesting than her boyfriend, that's for sure. You could put in a villain like Malos or Jean, not those ones. They have a ton of swagger and moveset potential that I think would fit well in Smash Bros. Heck, even Giga Chad Rex would make for a fun choice, even though I find Monolith's attempts to get people to like Rex after 2 to be try-hard to say the least. If it was up to me to choose one character from the Xenoblade series to be in the next Smash Bros., I would go with Rook. Yes, Rook is a custom character like so many other RPGs, but that is what makes him unique. X has a lot of weapons to choose from, such as beam sabers, dual swords, knives, ray guns, and a giant robot. Do you want to make Rook like the game, where they can only use 2 weapons at a given time? Or do you give them multiple weapons, one for each move, and then you throw in Overdrive into the mix?
Your chances of winning drastically go down!
The possibilities are endless. Plus, bringing in a character from Xenoblade X into Smash Bros. Would mean we get those bangers from the Xenoblade Chronicles X OST. I would bet money on a new Xenoblade character being in Smash Bros. 6. More than likely, it would be Mio, Elma, or maybe Matthew for a curveball. Or go really stupid and put in Cosmos from Xenogears. Maybe Bamco will port those games to something when they get done making terrible anime games. To me, Rook's moveset potential makes them the most exciting for me. Xenoblade Chronicles X being objectively the best Xenoblade game is also a factor. Still, I would be happy with almost any new Xenoblade character being in Smash Bros. Almost. After marinating on Xenoblade 3 after 2 years, Noah is whack as hell. He just wasn't as compelling as some of the other members of the Ouroboros. But that's not why I don't want him in Smash. It's because he's a big sword dude in a game that has a lot of big sword dudes in it, coming from a series that has lots of big sword dudes. I know he gets more options later in the game like the Lucky 7 and the Unlimited Sword, but neither have the options like the Monado or Aegis' swapping mechanic. Based on where my Smash Bros. And Xenoblade mind is going, I can't see Noah standing out in terms of gameplay compared to the other Xenoblade heroes or villains. Then again, I'm a mid-30s alcoholic gamer, not the director of one of the biggest game series in the world. I'm taking a lot of strays in my own video. If anybody could make Noah and fun unique in Smash Bros, it would be Sakurai. So I would happily dine on my words if Noah is in Smash Bros and is a fun character to use. Until then, just put in Mio or Rook instead. I'm going to lump all these characters in the same category because it seems like Smash Bros. Players cannot comprehend traditional fighting game characters. You know what Kazuya and Terry have over someone like Gino or Waluigi? Games and relevancy. As someone who grew up with both Smash Bros. And traditional fighting games, I want more fighting game characters in. I think a new franchise getting playable status isn't out of the question, and Akira Yuki from Virtua Fighter fits the bill. He's already an assist trophy, and I can see him getting the promotion to playable. If that happens, you're going to see a lot of Nintendo tubers or Smash players saying that Akira is a Shoto clone, ignoring the fact that Akira only resembles Ryu in terms of aesthetics and predated Kazuya, and is as far from a Shoto clone or beginner-friendly character as you could get. Except that one time when he was kind of a Shoto. Akira is insanely tentacle, which fans of sweaty characters like Kazuya or Ice Climbers would enjoy. That's why I'm showing you some high-level Akira footage from the background instead of my whack-ass Akira. I'm a wolf main in Virtua Fighter, and the idea of a dude whose only power is martial arts going up against literal gods is amusing to me. Plus, Sega seems intent on making Virtua Fighter a major franchise again, and Akira Yuki in Smash Bros. Would help with that. Finally, it would be cool to have a fighting game that has all the main fighting game heroes in it. That isn't a gacha game, I mean. I also think Luke Sullivan has a good shot of making the jump to playable, given how much Capcom really wants people to like him. I can see Nakayama-san rolling up to Sakurai-san like, bro, we really want people to like Luke, can you help us out? Luke is a lot of fun to use in Street Fighter 6, even if he isn't my main. I have a deep feeling in my soul that I will forever be a Jamie main unless Kyo, Yoon, Kyosuke, or Cyclops gets added to 6. Speaking of which, Kyo Kusanagi is my man, and I think he would fit in Smash Bros like a glove. SNK, put some respect on my boy. Some other fighting game heroes I've seen thrown around. Soul Bad Guy is cool, but a bit too unga bunga for my taste. He would work well in Smash, but I don't think Nintendo would choose an Arc Sys character over another SNK or Capcom character. Now, another Tekken character isn't outside the realm of reality. As mentioned, Jin Kazama being an echo for Kazuya would be cool. Though Reina getting picked over Jin would be hilarious just to enforce the fact that Jin is the least interesting of the Mishima bloodline. I've seen a lot of people request Scorpion or Sub-Zero for Smash Bros, including Ed Boon himself. The issue with Mortal Kombat is that the series has next to no presence in Japan. Something that Warner Bros. Even acknowledged when they released the 2021 movie over here. And here's my review of the Mortal Kombat movie. So fighting game characters are cool, and I hope we get more of them in Smash 6. I know there's no such thing as a wrong opinion, but if you're gonna honestly cut Kazuya and Terry over characters like, say, Min Min or the Wii Fit Trainer or the dog, congratulations, you found a wrong opinion. I'm combining these two together because I wrote the same thing twice. Maybe this is my old man energy finally starting to manifest. Dude, I'm only 32 years old. I don't want Jonesy for Fortnite. I think people play Fortnite for the social experience, the endless crossovers, or the fact that it's free to play. I'm not sure how many Fortnite Zoomers are going to buy Smash Bros for Jonesy. Unlike Steve, who has a distinct look, Jonesy is just a dude. A dude that dapped up Cyclops, but a dude nonetheless. Another thing is that I don't like the idea of Sakurai being forced to put in a trendy character for the sake of having those characters in Smash Bros. Jonesy fits in that category for me. Not to say that he would not be fun to play as, I just would not go out of my way to put him in Smash Bros. Maybe this is some preemptive cope about Jonesy because I think he has a good shot of being in. On a similar note are characters from MiHoYo. Their games are objectively not bad, and there are some cool character designs. Even though MiHoYo seems afraid of anybody with even the smallest hint of a tan, much like your local police force and the Trump administration. Unlike Fortnite, which is on Switch and has some cool collaborations with Nintendo, at time of making this video, none of the MiHoYo games have made it to a Nintendo platform. In particular, the Switch port of Genshin Impact has been stuck in development hell and has not been heard of in ages. That said, I'm confident games like ZZZ and Genshin will hit the Switch too. Not saying characters from these games would not be fun to play as. My main issue is that putting a character from Genshin or ZZZ in the next Smash Bros. Would just reek of marketing, rather than a sincere interest in the game or character. Especially as, again, none of MiHoYo's games are on a Nintendo platform as I make this video. At least Roy and Corrin are from a Nintendo franchise, and Dragon Quest has had a history of being on Nintendo platforms before they made Hero a blatant ad for Dragon Quest XI's. Not to say that Sakurai-san does not play any of the MiHoYo games, but as someone looking from the outside, a MiHoYo character would just reek of executive mandates. I'm not sure if a character from Genshin or whatever will make it into Smash Bros. If those games come to the Switch too, then I am sure they have as good of a shot as any character for Smash Bros. But if that happens, I will have to deal with annoying Genshin fans on top of Smash players for the rest of my life, which I don't think I'm prepared for. A handsome dude plus cool weapons plus Greek mythology equals Zagreus. A once obscure character of Greek mythology became a hit with fans in the 2020 game Hades, myself included. The more you play, the more weapons you unlock, you get more power-ups from the various Greek gods, and every one of them being fun to use. Simply put, Zag has a lot of moves that would make for a fun fighter. And as a fan of Greek mythology, I would love to see Pit and Zag clash and smash. Palutena would have fit in well with the cast of Hades. Leave a like if you would have gone out of your way to romance Palu in Hades. Nintendo seems really apprehensive about adding in indie characters as playable in Smash Bros. Steve does not count because Microsoft owns Minecraft. If the biggest names in that genre can only be an assist trophy or a Mii costume, that does not bode well. But Hades was a huge critical and commercial success with a sequel on the way. Zagreus would be a welcome addition to Smash Bros, and I think the hardcore side of Smash players would appreciate the Zagman. Here are some other characters that I think would be cool. Gino is a fascinating character to me because I've never seen a character get gassed up so much for how cool they are, yet never talk about the source material all too much. Gino is on many requested lists, but prior to the remake, rarely talked about his home game. What is it with the obsession with Gino? Just because Sakurai brought him up in an interview over a decade ago? I can see why Gino never made the jump to playable. Nintendo would need Square's approval, and Square would rather have characters with actual cultural relevance than a dude from a one-off that's popular with dorks online. And I don't think Nintendo is going to challenge Square to a custody match over him and Malo. Gino fans glazing him up so much also turned me and others off the idea of Gino as a playable fighter. My dislike of the character has subsided somewhat with the remake, so I could at least see him getting the jump to playable status because he has some relevance beyond his vocal fandom. The remake sold well for itself, so I can see a true sequel being in the conversation. At the same time, I think Square would rather work on their own properties. Plus, Square directly benefited from one of their characters being in Smash Bros., so I would imagine they would rather promote one of their wholly owned games instead of a one-off collab with Nintendo. Pure speculation on my end. I don't know how Square Enix operates, and quite frankly, I don't want to. I could maybe see Gino making the jump to playable if he's on the base roster of a new Smash Bros. Despite his vocal fandom, Gino isn't that popular or well known of a character in the grand scheme of things, so I don't see him being DLC if he misses the base roster ship. And if you couldn't tell, I'm not a big Gino fan. On a related note, I'm not a fan of these characters either, and I think they would be whack as hell in a new Smash Bros. And to that one guy in my YouTube comments who was asking me about why I had Gino in the thumbnail of that one video, congratulations, welcome to the wacky world of clickbait! A few things before I get to number 1. Will everybody return for Smash Bros. 6? It's hard to say. Sakurai has implied that there might be some cuts, but Ultimate did reuse a bunch of assets, so I don't see why that could not happen again. Negotiating the rights for third parties wouldn't be difficult. People say that Square is stingy, but given how they directly benefited from their characters being in Smash, I think getting Square characters in the new title isn't difficult. Plus, I think that casual fans might look at a new game that has less characters but similar features to the previous title, and think it's worse because it has less content than the older game. If they did have to pare down the roster, who would be getting the cut? If I had to guess, these characters would be getting the axe. I'm basing this on who seems excessive and who hasn't had much relevancy outside of Smash. Personally, I don't want characters to get cut. I want characters to get nerfed into the ground to expose you Steve, Snake, and Min players as total frauds. Will the next game be a new game entirely or Smash Ultimate Deluxe? With the Switch 2 being backwards compatible, it would make more sense to make a new game. And I feel like Sakurai and his team would rather make a new game entirely rather than work on the same thing for decades. Shouts to the Mario Kart 8 team. That said, I would not be surprised if they do go for the deluxe route for the Switch 2. Will the previous Smash Bros. Games get ported anytime soon? Other than the first title, Nintendo doesn't seem too interested in porting the previous Smash Bros. Games to newer systems. My thought process is that it might flood the market for Smash Bros. Games, and as mentioned, Nintendo might think that non-gamers wouldn't bother with the older titles as they have less characters and features than Ultimate. It's also been heavily implied that Nintendo does not want to port Melee to anything because they don't want to deal with Melee players. I don't blame them. Finally, will Sakurai cross the line and add in non-video game characters into Smash Bros? If he was working for any other company besides Nintendo, I know for a fact that the suits would force their hand. They already kind of did in Ultimate, with Sakurai saying that the DLC was chosen for him and they really wanted Steve and Kazuya in. However, Nintendo is respectful of their developers and would let Sakurai do his thing. So I don't think we're going to have a Fighter's Pass with Superman, Ichigo, Iron Man, Maki Ito, Alf, and Randall Flagg in it. Even though that would be lit. Maybe when Multiversus 2 happens, we'll get that pass. Rest in pepperoni multiverses, you tried. So, let's pour one out for WB's attempt at a platform fighter. You guys think I'm gonna waste perfectly good whiskey over multiverses of all things? You dudes are out of your mind. Normally, I am in the camp of ACAB, but Akira Howard is the exception. Astral Chain is still one of my favorite Switch titles. Even after all this time, I'd put it in my top 5 Switch games. I love the cyberpunk aesthetic, music, and the unique gameplay. Platinum called it a hybrid action game because you're controlling 2 characters at once. The player character, who technically isn't Akira, but I'm calling them Akira for the sake of convenience, and their Legion. You get 5 Legions throughout your playthrough, each having their own strengths and weaknesses, and all fun to use. It's a game that you can really show off in after a bit of practice. I had to replay this game to get a bit of footage for it, and after I got my mojo back, I had a hard time putting it down. And it goes without saying, Akira would be so sick in the next Smash Bros. Between the legions and their weapons, there's so much you can do with this character. Plus, Cyberpunk isn't represented much in Smash Bros. I understand why this character didn't make the cut in Ultimate. Astral Chain was released in 2019, and I'm sure by the time Sakurai got to play the game, they already had Fighters Pass 2 decided. Plus, it's not like Platinum was known for making the highest selling games, but Astral Chain sold darn well and Nintendo owns the IP. The only thing I see stopping a sequel to this game being made is that Platinum has been collapsing throughout the 2020s, and Tara not being with that company anymore. Still, I hope a sequel to Astral Chain can get made, and Akira Howard can take their place as a playable character in the next Super Smash Bros. Game. The Eternal Butt Monkey. Waluigi has been snubbed for Smash Bros. Since Brawl, and the cries have only gotten louder over the years for the dude. Waluigi is another fascinating creature to me. Nintendo does not care much for the guy. His backstory is minuscule, and he only appears in the Mario spin-offs. Even then, he has not had perfect attendance. His biggest appearance in a Mario game so far are his clothes being added in Mario Odyssey. Fans of Waluigi are fans of the underdog, waiting for his time in the sun. But if he gets his time in the sun, would he still have his loyal fans, or would the meme run its course? If a tree falls in the woods, does it make a wah? Nintendo has acknowledged Waluigi's request for playable status, and a request that has been promptly ignored. The story goes that when Camelot was making Mario Tennis, they made Waluigi to be Wario's partner. They wanted to take the Wa concept further with a Wa Peach character. Now, legend has it that Miyamoto hated the concept and told Camelot no to the Wa Peach idea, then forsaken Waluigi to the spin-off dimension. I don't know where I read that from, and I'm pretty sure it's just an urban legend at this point. Plus, I found an interview where Camelot's VP said that Miyamoto actually liked Waluigi. Whatever the case is, Nintendo themselves don't care to do much with the Purple Bean other than him being in the spin-offs. My main issue with Waluigi comes from how vocal his fandom is. It's like Gino in the sense that you hear people demanding for more Waluigi for the sake of Waluigi, and those who aren't familiar with the character don't get the appeal. I'm somewhat in the middle where I understand where his fans are coming from, but I just find Waluigi uninteresting. Adding in Waluigi in Smash Bros. Would be pandering to me, rather than out of legit love or interest for the character. Plus, I'm just sick of Waluigi fans gassing up the character at any opportunity. Call me a hater, but this Waluigi character is whack. Or excuse me, whack! What this video is saying is that if this was your Fighter's Pass, you're basic. And that is my look at my most wanted and least wanted Smash Bros. Characters finished, and I hope you enjoyed it. I feel like I go against the grain of a lot of these kind of most wanted characters videos because the characters I want aren't necessarily the characters that most Smash Bros. Or Nintendo fans want in a new game. But on that note, I think that makes the video more fun to watch because I don't want to be the millionth guy to be like, oh guys, I really want Crash Bandicoot in the next Smash Bros. But at the same time though, even if none of the characters I requested in this video make it in the next Smash Bros, I fully trust Sakurai and this team to make the best game possible, and I'm really looking forward to the next Smash Bros and hope it will be even better than Ultimate. And I really hope they nerf the heck out of Snake. So I guess we'll end the video with that. So let me know in the comments, who do you want in the next Smash Bros and who do you not want in the next Smash Bros? Let me know down there in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos. Hit me up on those social media accounts like Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok @ZMangs. And with that, I'll see you in the next video, and yes, I am drinking whiskey out of a Kirby glass, so we'll see you then guys. Later everybody, take care.